Hello and welcome back. Today, as suggested by Atelier, I'm going to look at which is better, Palm or Windows CE. These two companies started out with very different design philosophies. Palm was a lot more like Apple in that it designed Palm OS, but it also created all the hardware to go with it, giving it total control over what the hardware was capable of. Palm later diversified and licensed out their software to other companies, such as Handspring, Sony, of course, and Acer. Microsoft, on the other hand, simply designed the software, gave hardware specs to the designers, and let them go crazy. In fact, Microsoft even gave manufacturers a choice of different CPU architectures, before in later years moving over to ARM. This did have some interesting consequences, but unfortunately it meant for developers that they had to compile 2 or more versions of their software, never mind if they were also designing for the handheld PC. The first Palm was released in March of 1996, and it quickly gained popularity with both consumers and developers, mainly because of its small form factor, good battery life, and very simple and efficient operating system. At that time, Microsoft was still working on the concept of the handheld PC. The first ones were to be released the following year in 1997. An example of those is the Philips Velo, and I'll put a link to the review just here. The first Palm-sized PCs were released in 1998. In the same year, Palm would release the Palm 3 with its latest iteration of the operating system and hardware improvements including an infrared port and a backlight. Since there were so many devices released over the following few years and there were massive changes to the operating system both for Palm and for Microsoft, I thought we'd start at the beginning. So we're going to have a look at a comparison between the Philips Nino and the Palm 3. These were both released in 1998. Technically this is a 3X, but the only difference between this and the standard 3 is that this has 4 meg of RAM and the standard 3 only has 2. So, where do we begin? So let's take a look at the hardware, and the first thing we're going to need to look at is the pocketability. These are supposed to be mobile devices after all. As you can see, the Nino is significantly longer and a fair bit thicker than the Palm 3. So we're going to give that one to the Palm 3. What about the weight? So the Palm 3 with batteries weighs in at 182 grams. So not too bad, it's hardly going to tear the lining from your suit. And the Nino, on the other hand, again with batteries, weighs in at a whopping 229 grams. Quite a significant increase, so that's another point to the Palm. So what about protective covers? The Philips Nino comes with a sliding cover. This is inconvenient because you're forever pulling it in and out of the cover, whereas the Palm 3 comes with this convenient flap which covers the screen when it's in your pocket and can fold right back to reveal the infrared port and keep out of the way. So I'm going to give another point to the Palm, and I'm going to remove the cover for the time being. Both of these come with a significant number of programmable buttons for program launching, so 1 all. What about expandability? So there's no way to add additional memory to the Palm 3, it's got what it comes with and that's the end of that. The Philips Nino, on the other hand, not only has an upgradable RAM slot, allowing you to take it from 4 to 8 meg of RAM, but it also has a compact flash card slot on the top. The clip on mine is broken, as you will see in my previous video, but there it is, the compact flash card slot. So the Nino definitely gets a point for that. Both of these screens offer 2 bits, 4 shades of grey, not 50, that's something very different. The panel is a very similar size, as you can see comparatively. However, the Palm only has the low resolution of 160 by 160 pixels, whereas the Philips Nino has 240 by 320 pixels, so a much better resolution and so many more things on the screen at once. Big point to the Nino. Pixels aren't everything though, and what you'll see is the Palm screen looks much more contrasty and defined than the Philips Nino. In fact, it's a much nicer screen to use in person, not just on the camera. Both of these devices have a backlight. Both of them are activated by pressing and holding the button. And if I turn the lights down, you'll see that we've got a full backlight on here and an inverted backlight on the Palm 3. I really like the inverted backlight. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, They both have a backlight though, so it's 1-1 for that. What about battery life? Well, the Palm 3 runs on 2 AAAs, while the Philips Nino uses 2 AAs. They both get similar levels of battery life, but I'm going to give a point to the Palm because it uses the AAA, which conventionally holds about a quarter the power of a AA. So what about other hardware specs? So on the Palm 3, we only have a 16 MHz CPU, whereas the Nino comes with a 75 MHz CPU. Now that isn't the only answer to the question, because what we're really interested in is real-world performance. So let's launch the calendar on both of them as close to the same time as I can get it. And I think we'll all agree that that was near instantaneous on the Palm, where there was quite a delay on the Philips Nino. Let's see which one manages to launch the to-do list faster. Once again, as you can see, it's near instant on the Palm, and we've got a little bit of a lag on the Philips Nino. So I'm definitely going to give a point to the Palm 3. One of the major differences between these two operating systems is that Palm OS only deals with single tasks at a time, whereas under Windows CE we can actually multitask. So at the moment we've already got the calendar launched in the background, and by pressing the calendar button it should come to the foreground much faster. So if we go back to the to-do list and then do the same experiment again, let's see if the Nino can win. And that was a very definite no. So I'm going to give another point to the Palm OS just for being so fast, but I am going to give one to Windows CE for multitasking. So what about storage? So the Palm 3 comes as standard with 2 meg of RAM, whereas the Philips Nino comes as standard with 4. This is the 3X, so it has 4 meg, and actually there is a better version of the Philips Nino which comes with 8. So again, initially it looks like the Nino should win hands down. So to make this fair, I'm just going to do a quick reset on the Philips Nino. There we go. And we're going to check just how much RAM is in use by the operating system. Then we'll do the same on the Palm. So as you can see, we're only actually using 25k of RAM in order to keep the Palm OS operating system alive. However, even after an initial reset, we're using a whole lot more for Windows CE. In fact, it's using a whacking 1216k of RAM. So I'm going to give a point to the Palm for this one, because that's way more efficient. We're using a little over a quarter of the RAM just for the operating system on the Philips Nino. In terms of applications, both of these devices have a calendar, both of them have an address book, although you might not use that these days given that we've got phones, and both of them have a to-do list. In addition, they both have notes, but the big advantage on the Philips Nino is that within the note taker, you can not only have templates when you create a note, but you can handwrite messages. You can also draw pictures, and this can be very useful for quickly jotting down a phone number or a name or something you've seen or want to remember. Unfortunately, in this early version of Windows CE, there's no way of taking this handwritten note and turning it into text, but nevertheless, very useful to be able to take notes. And I would definitely give one to the Nino for that feature. In addition, the Nino comes pre-installed with internet channels, which allows you to download content from the internet, or at least it did. And with the optional modem, you can actually browse the internet on the go. In addition, the Philips Nino has built-in email service, which the Palm doesn't. Yes, you can add it, but it takes up memory. It's built in on the Nino. So I'm going to give an extra point to the Nino for its connectivity abilities. And one last thing.
Philips Nino can record audio and play it back through its full-size speaker, unlike on the Palm 3.
That ability to record voice memos can be very handy, and particularly because it's attached to a button. Simply press, wait for the beep, and start recording. So another point to the Nino on that one. Lastly, for text input, both of these computers have the option of using a keyboard. We have an additional T9 input on the Philips Nino, and we also have the jot recognizer. However, there's no question in my mind that while Graffiti has a small learning curve, it is much faster than the jot recognizer on the Nino. So when it comes to text input, the Palm definitely wins hands down. So another point to Palm. Just as important as what comes out of the box when you buy one of these is the availability of third-party software. By 1998, there were literally thousands of applications available for the Palm 3, many of which were free. There were lots of shareware applications and add-on Office applications. The palm-sized PC, on the other hand, because it was new, had almost no applications available on launch. Microsoft had hoped developers would simply fill that void. But because of the combination of different CPU architectures being used in future models and a lack of backwards compatibility in Windows CE, by the time of the launch Pocket PC, developers had all but stopped making anything available for CE2. So comparatively few applications would ever become available for this platform. This is definitely a point for the Palm 3. There are many ways of assessing what is good and what is bad about portable computers. However, I believe the ones I've chosen give a good range. You are welcome to disagree and pop a comment below. In conclusion, the findings are actually fairly close, but the Palm definitely wins. However, the idea that objectively one of these two is much better than the other falls foul once you look at use purposes. Yes, if it's just a diary and just a to-do list and just your contacts and just a memo pad, the Palm's got it all. But all you need to do is want to be able to make a voice memo, and the Palm fails miserably. In fact, Palm weren't going to introduce this feature until Palm OS 5, so you've got a long time to wait if you're a Palm aficionado to catch up with the technology on this very early palm-sized PC. That said, if you want something that is simple, intuitive, easy to use, and just works straight out of the box with no messing about, then the Palm is definitely the better of the two devices. Again, pop your comments below if you think otherwise. So that's 1998 Palm versus CE, but what about in the future? Palm OS itself moves along at a snail's pace, still using sub 100 MHz CPUs, putting 8 meg of RAM in, eventually 16, and still offering black and white screens well into the 2000s. However, Windows CE pretty much follows Moore's law, with the CPU speeds doubling every 2 years and the amount of RAM also doubling, sometimes more, every 2 years. Colour screens become the norm by the millennium, with the last of the Casio black and white screens a distant memory. And with every new iteration, more and more features are packed in. Moving forward to the introduction of Palm OS 5, and I think those scales rebalance as Palm has suddenly decided faster CPUs, more RAM, higher resolutions and full colour screens are the order of the day. If you have enjoyed this video, a like and subscribe would be excellent. In addition, if you would like to see a comparison of later Palm and Windows CE devices, let me know. I'll be happy to arrange it. My name's Hugh, this is Handheld Computing. Thanks for watching.